Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Alumni Chats, a weekly podcast featuring alumni from the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism here at Western Illinois University. My name is Buzz Hoon, and I'm the host of the podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with 1989 graduate Darcie Shinberger. Welcome, Darcie.
Thank you so much from across campus.
Yeah, it's not too far away, but also, part of the fun of Zoom is being able to reach out and have a conversation with people. And even though we're on the same campus, you and I don't get a chance to talk too much. And,
Right.
and we both have a daughter of the same age period of time. And even though, so I've known you for years, but I think I'm going to find out more about you today than probably I've known over the last, 20 some years.
Right. Or more than you want to know, maybe.
So let's talk about your early years. You grew up in Geneseo, which is the Quad City area.
Right. Just about 20 minutes outside of the Quad Cities, a bedroom community of the Quad Cities. Born and raised there. Lived across the street from my elementary school. My parents still live there. I went to Blackhawk after I graduated in 1985 from high school, which seems like a lifetime ago, and focused on mass comm there. And Karen Helmer, she was Karen Frowing at the time, was one of the admissions directors here at Western that actually was at a college fair. And I wanted to go close to home, but not too far away.
Yeah.
A little further away than just down the road because I commuted to Blackhawk every day and lived at home and worked. And Karen recruited me, and I came to school here at Western to continue my broadcasting and journalism degree.
So when did you have an interest in being a reporter? At some point in time, something must have clicked for you. I know even back in my grade school time, I started printing out little papers for people in my class. When did it hit you that you wanted to do this?
It was well before sixth grade. I want to say third, fourth, or fifth grade. I had somebody had given me, and I don't know if it was my parents, a grandparent, a cassette recorder.
Mm-hmm.
The younger alums may need to Google that, but it was a cassette recorder with cassette tapes. And I always liked to talk, and I was nosy. So I always liked to get to know people's stories. I was always one of the ones on the report card in trouble for talking in class and things like that. So my mom, back in the day, used to iron. That was the thing. Every Sunday, all the laundry was done and she would iron. And I would sit on the basement steps and interview her. And I do different voices. She'd do different voices. And a few weeks ago, my parents, like I said, still live in the house I grew up in. And we were cleaning out their basement for cleanup week. And I came across one of my cassette tapes from one of the interviews. I haven't listened to it yet because I imagine it'll be a little mortifying. And I want to listen to it before I let my family hear it because they've heard some things I've done in the past and they relentlessly make fun of me. So I'd say before that, started interviewing people, my family, and creating stories. And I was always really active in school in speech and did some plays, anything that had a creative outlet, the newspaper, always have enjoyed writing. So I thought, where can I combine my love of writing and talking? Broadcasting. And so a star was born maybe in fourth grade.
That is so awesome to have those tapes.
They will not be shared anywhere but the privacy of my own home.
Well, I thought maybe they'd be released to the public at some point in time.
Absolutely not.
So when you came to WIU, as you said, you transferred in, but you got involved in a number of things right away. Can you talk about some of the things that you?
I did. I had when you and I were talking about this, I had actually done an internship when I was at Blackhawk with the Atkinson Anawan News. So a small daily newspaper just down the road from Geneseo. Ron DeBrock was the editor and had great training under him for writing, wrote small town news, small town features, and just the real feel good stories for those papers. So I had that writing experience when I was at Blackhawk. So when I transferred here, the radio facilities at Blackhawk weren't extensive. So I did some work with what was WIUS, the dog then. Actually wanted to do more of the radio side than the television side. So that's what I focused on. And I had Sharon Evans for a professor, Nancy Selby, Barb Brown, and just really great professors. And then on the journalism side, Bill Knight, Mohammed Siddiqui, Dr. Lee,
Oh, yeah.
Don Black, just phenomenal teachers, Terry Longhorn. So I worked for Terry at the Courier and continued to wrote for the sequel, did a little bit, like I said, with WIUS and AIS, some volunteer reading. And I actually did my internship back in my hometown at a small, I don't even know what watt, but AM station, WGEN, not to be confused with WGN radio. And that was between my junior and senior year. And the day I walked in, the sales director and the owners were having it out. He quit. So my first day of my internship, I became the marketing salesperson, on-air personality. So I sold ads, wrote copy, did all of that. So it was a little bit of everything and did that. And I realized writing the news for radio, it didn't allow me enough of an outlet for my writing. And I didn't want to spend all this time interviewing people and whittling a story down to 30 or 60 seconds. And so when I came back, I focused more on my writing, but it was a phenomenal experience. I had a lot of fun. We covered the Henry County Fair and we hosted the Geneseo Music Festival and did live events. And because we were a small station, I did everything. And at the end of the internship, they offered me a job when I graduated, $9,000 a year. And they told me I could live with my parents. And I said, absolutely not. And I did come back to school and finish. And ironically, I took my first job with a local newspaper for $10,000 a year. But got to do a lot of interesting things. And what I learned here from my professors, I couldn't have asked for a better education, first at Blackhawk, but then really getting a lot of hands-on experience when I was a student here.
Yeah, and that sounds like a very typical radio situation where you just kind of dropped in. But I think what was notable about that is you had the opportunity to start interacting with the public, something that when you look back now, how beneficial that probably was for you, because I mean, what you had to do over all these years of interacting with all types of individuals, it was a great preparation for you.
Well, and that's what, I think when we go from journalism or broadcasting to public relations, I've always joked I went to the dark side of the industry. And because sometimes public relations folks aren't exactly looked upon favorably, perhaps by some reporters and that. But I think coming from that background, I respect deadlines. I understand what journalists need and want. I have great relationships, I think, with our local journalists and even some of the more nationally known journalists like the Tribune and that. And they know they're going to get a call back. They know I'm going to work really hard to get an expert source in front of them. But it was the training I received here, so I can anticipate maybe what they're going to ask and be ready for that. And really getting to know everyone locally when I was with the Macomb Journal and then with the Peoria Journal Star, because that's when newspapers were still in their heyday. Yeah. So you had 6-7 day a week editions, you had separate sections. So I went down in a coal mine in central Illinois and learned about coal mining in this region. I went to area prisons and did a separate focus on those. I went up in a small plane and how you learn how to fly a plane, and interviewed people about these beautiful homes they had in the region. I covered 10 counties for the Journal Star, but then just getting to know, actually, there was no internet. You had to walk and call and knock on doors and show up and go to the courthouse and your daily police briefings and really get to know everyone. Really has helped me in my career because, again, I'm not shy. But that initial training really did help in terms of talking to people, crafting a story, knowing what to ask, and it just really helped me build my career here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was, as a early reporter in that period of time, it was about building relationships because those people were your sources for information and would point you in a particular way, and how that still benefits you as you continue on in what you're doing here. I think that's so important, and I think that our young people really need to understand that about every time you meet somebody new, it's about building that bridge and maintaining it.
Absolutely. And just working with the students in your program now through News 3. News 3 was that station, everything was around then, but because I didn't do any work from the television production side, I didn't have those opportunities to really get to know a lot of the administrators at the institution and things like that, when it was a lot different. There was no internet, no social media, there was no immediacy. So you had to make the call, you had to try to get an appointment, go in, take the notes. There wasn't the Zoom, there wasn't the social media instant messaging or email where they could answer questions. And but I didn't have that opportunity to get to know everyone. But when I work with your students on an almost daily basis, they come through our office to get lined up for interviews, and the professionalism and the due diligence that the students have to do their stories, I'm just continuously impressed with the level of training they get here. And I feel like I got that back in the day, even though the technology was totally different. When I've been in the studio before on Good Morning Macomb and things like that, I look around and think there's no way I could learn this now. But I thought, back in the day when I joined Western, again, the design programs were very new. We weren't using those. I was still cropping photos with a photo wheel and doing manual layout, but I learned that here too. So I was able to do that. But then I've had to learn the whole technology thing, boots on the ground here. But my journalism teachers here, I mentioned to you, Don Black, I came in here and I felt like I was a pretty strong writer. I've been writing for a while. I had done the internship and I felt like I was a really, really strong writer. And the first story I wrote for class, and I don't know if you worked with Don or remember Don.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
He was a grizzled old newspaper man. That's the best, and he'd be okay with that description. Yeah. He taught here after working in the industry, and he didn't pull any punches. And the first paper I get back from him, my first story, whoop-de-doo, who really gives a on my paper in red. And I was so mad. And years later, I realized that was his style. I was going to maybe be working for guys like him, because in the newsrooms at the time when I graduated, it was a male-dominated industry in terms of management and such. So I learned a lot from him. And it really made me even more motivated to further hone my writing skills, because I didn't want to see a phrase like that on my paper again. And we've joked about it over the years when I happened into him years later after I graduated. But obviously that's a story that I'll never forget. I'll probably be telling that when I'm 90 years old.
There's nothing like the first time your writing gets criticized and you get dressed down into the bare, and then you start anew. That's what you have to
dress
do.
down like that, where it was just bare bones, lay it all out. Okay, then.
So, something I really think was impressive as your time as a student. Not only did you do all those things that were working towards your career at the time, but you were also a student worker in international programs. Can you talk a little bit about your memories from that?
The best student worker job I think anyone could ever have, besides working in my office now, of course. But um, Peggy Davern, Bob Gabler, Joyce Hertko, and just Dr. Burton, a lot of people, Patty Jones, that ran international programs, Westerns, English as a second language, and we were the front office workers. I met my best friend. We both worked in the office together. We remain friends today and see each other on a regular basis, talk daily. And we were the front office staffers. So we helped the international students set up bank accounts. We got them acclimated to the university and to the community, and took part in International Friendship Club activities, the International Bazaar. And we had an office full of moms. And I've been fortunate enough I still see Patty in the community. Pam Hines was in the office then, and she went on to work at the library. And she actually came back to work for me here in university relations.
Wow.
As my office support assistant when I was between office administrators. And I thought, how full circle is this? And I joked with Pam. I said, yeah, you used to boss me around. Now I get to boss you around. And she said, I don't think so. And those are the kind of connections you make here at Western. Whether you stay here or whether you go, you'll find somewhere in your life along the line, there will be someone coming back in your life that you knew at Western or had an affiliation with at Western, or that knew someone you knew at Western. And it's that way, I think, for almost any alum.
Yeah, that's so awesome to hear that, because I think that people, obviously, the reason you're here is for the education, which is you get such a great training and well-rounded education. But I think that it's about, again, the other people that you're meeting and the support people that you meet, that really also give you the basis for you to go out into your life.
Absolutely. And I just go back to this over and over. It just really solidified when I came here what I wanted to do. I didn't change my major. I knew what I was going to do. And I had not only the faculty and staff there to support me and encourage me and motivate me, I had like-minded classmates that we had so much fun at the Courier. And it just, to this day, it's remember this, remember that. And we learned from each other. We won awards. Back in the recesses of archives, our names are still on the Courier. And so it really, I think, shaped me and made me a better professional. And I can still go back and remember what I learned and things that people said to me, darn Black, obviously, and really continue to work hard to be an even better professional.
So when you left WIU, as you said, your first job was with the Macomb Journal, which was a little bit, I mean, I remember back in the day, it was, I think, a very solid, almost daily newspaper. I think 6 days a week.
I think it was 6 days a week. We laid out the Sunday paper on Saturday night. And that's when the Illinois Theater was where it was. So I remember many times running down the back steps to get popcorn down at the Illinois Theater while we were laying out the paper. But that's when we were there until midnight or whatnot. We had the printing press there in the building behind, and the whole cropping of everything, the wax paste up. And we would alternate our Saturday nights laying out the Sunday paper.
So your one of your, which I think is really cool achievement was you won an award from the AP, and it was for that series that you had mentioned where you did on the prisons, which I'm sure maybe when you said this to your parents, they were like, "What are you doing?"
I probably didn't tell them, but one of the things, Pete Falcone was my editor. He was the GM editor. He hired me, and his daughter Rachel, who is in a public information role at Illinois State University. So now I get to, she and I bounce things off of one another. She was my intern one summer. She was 18. Well, I don't even think she was 18, but I was only 21, 22 years old, and she was my intern. And she went with me to the Galesburg prison and didn't tell her dad.
Oh,
And I don't think he was very happy about that. But I focused on a different aspect, education. I think that might have been the Galesburg, and I interviewed inmates about the educational opportunities they have in there. But it was a 3-part series. I wanted it to be 4-part and go to Fort Madison, but the warden said he couldn't guarantee my safety. It is a maximum security prison, and Pete, being the father of 3 daughters, some close to my age, said, "You're not going." So I did not go. And so it was a 3-part series, and I won an award for the AP for that. So I don't know if I still have it up there. I don't think so. I think it's in a memory box somewhere at home.
no, that's still pretty cool. And then you were there not too long, and then you also started working at the Peoria Journal-Star
Right.
as a local beat reporter. Is that right?
Right. They had someone over there taking notice of my writing, and these were still independently on papers. The Macomb Journal was purchased. I think Park Publications owned it at the time. They were based out of Ithaca, New York, but they were still, while it was owned by a conglomerate, it still operated independently. And we didn't run stories from other Park publications. It was all McDonough County, Macomb area news in the newspaper. So someone from the Journal-Star noticed my writing and asked me if I'd be interested in being their McDonough County area and others, Hancock, Mercer, Warren. I put a lot of miles on my Geo Metro, and the inside of it showed. I lived out of my car. I worked out of my home, which that was my first remote work experience. Loved it, and was on the phone a lot. At a lot of different counties, doing a lot of different things, anywhere from Sunday home features, because I don't know if you remember the Journal-Star on Sundays used to have a giant home section with the real estate, but the front of that section was a feature story on an interesting home or a historical landmark. So I did some really neat stories. I went over to Blandonsville. Dr. Kerr and his wife had a really neat house over in Blandonsville, and did a story on that. There were murder trials that I covered, not only here, but I think in Henderson County or Hancock County, and just a lot of daily news, a lot of feature stories. And I did that for 2 years. Was dating a local guy at the time, and we decided to get married. He had his own business. And I don't know at what time in your life you decide or you realize how important benefits are, maybe when you pay your first hospital bill. And the job for editorial writer came open here. John McGuire ran university relations. I knew him from city council.
Yep.
He was a longtime alderman, and did the test. It was civil service, and so had to get the score and be interviewed while I was hired. And so that was my foot in the door here in 1994. And I thought I'd landed in high clover with benefits and a salary and an 8 to 4:30 job Monday through Friday, and paid vacation and paid sick days, and started working here as an editorial writer, and just worked my way up the ranks throughout the years. And we just stayed here, raised our daughter here. Have loved working for Western over the years. It's my alma mater. Have been able to get a couple master's degrees while I'm chugging along here, and promote a product I believe in and I love.
So, which I think is there certainly are pluses and minuses um, about doing the relations part of it as you move from the journalism part of it to, as you said, a little bit more of the PR part. So, for somebody that might be thinking about this as a possible career move, what's the pluses and minuses? You've already kind of said here are some differences in work conditions, but what about content or just dealing with people in general?
Well, and I think this goes for public relations or communication office, not just in higher ed, but with any kind of large organization that has a very public presence, be it nonprofit or anything. You're probably going to have less crisis communication if making a smaller business or nonprofit, but if you think it won't happen, it will. So you have to be prepared, even if you're at a business that you don't think something will happen. The challenge with this, I call social media a double-edged sword. Back in the day, there was no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, no this, no that, no immediacy.
Yeah.
8 to 4:30, we faxed our news releases out. There was very little in the way of the World Wide Web or email. And well, we had cell phones in that. It still wasn't standard. So if something happened in the middle of the night, we might not be handling it until the next morning because the immediacy wasn't there. Journalists, news outlets wouldn't have gotten that information maybe other than through a scanner or been able to get a hold of anyone. And now the immediacy of social media, I'm on call 24/7. I often joke that the only time I've ever been able to take a true vacation is when I took a cruise and I got my phone off for 4 days because I wasn't going to pay those charges while I was in the Bahamas for my phone to be on and to buy the plan through there. On call 24/7, social media and the immediacy of it can make the job really difficult. It allows misinformation and rumors to spread like wildfire. When we do have a crisis situation, it's someone monitoring social media. We monitor social media on the regular anyway. I think it's the last thing I do before I go to bed. And just check to ensure that there's nothing we have to clarify, that someone doesn't have a burning question. But then social media is also wonderful because of the reach we have. We can reach students, parents, the general public across the world.
Yeah.
We can post engaging content, fun content. I do the Facebook. Our social media coordinator does Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and that. But I said, I want to keep Facebook. That's really can be the fun part of my job because I have a quirky, weird sense of humor and I can use social media for that. I love puns. Yesterday's was a haiku about getting vaccinations. That was me. So it allows me to have the quirky, weird side of my personality shine. But you have to be prepared. So you can't just leave for the day and think something won't be hanging out there. So the challenges with public relations are just the sheer immediacy. But I think it's that way for any job anymore, especially if you have a social presence.
Does it heighten at all? Because, you and I both have, which many people that we know have a love of this university. And we want the best for this university. So when there is good news, there's nothing higher in our spirits as to have good news to share and to say, we are really proud of the people that not only have been here, but our current students and the ones that are going to come here. So there's the, the struggle is sometimes when, of course, there is the other type of news, but how does your affection for this university, which is different than, you could be working for X organization and really have no real ties to that?
Well, if you're working for X organization, you better have some kind of tie for it and have some kind of affection for it in order to do your job well.
Yeah.
I think you have to believe in your company, your product, your organization, especially if you're in public relations. You don't want to just give it lip service. You really do want to believe in the organization, the business, the industry, and not just be doing it for a job. I think when you do have a love for it, you can get burnout pretty quickly and get pretty tired pretty quickly, but that's just part of the job. I do have to separate my personal feelings about the institution with just the facts, ma'am, and really share the pertinent information that's factual, that will help diffuse a situation or provide the necessary information so students, faculty, staff, parents feel safe, know the situation is under control, know that the university administration and safety officials or whomever's involved has a handle on it. I think some of the affection, the affinity for the institution does come out in what I do, particularly if I do a live interview. It's a little harder with writing, but the facts and being able to separate your emotion from getting out the appropriate information and quickly. Because again, we go back to social media and the immediacy. You have to be able to get the information out as quickly as possible. And I don't want to delve into a lot of situations and issues, but we had something that occurred just last semester in the fall that we hadn't seen on this campus, at least not while I was in this role. And Kara from Channel 10 was my first reporter on the scene. Maybe I was out here by 11:30 and I think I was on camera by 12:30. So in that hour's time, I had to have a statement ready, be ready to go, and continue to refine it as we receive more information. Then I think it was Devin and Devin were my next ones around, and they kept checking in and things like that. So being prepared for anything is essential, and just I said it earlier, the boots on the ground as soon as possible, and trying to remain level-headed, and that's something that I think comes with experience as well. I don't know if the 22-year-old me would have been as calm, even though with the great training I had, than the 53-year-old me was.
So you kind of alluded to this. You have a family. You went and got 2 master's degrees, and you continue to add to your responsibilities in your position. You continue to add, what you were doing, and so I'm sure at some point, moving up in the ranks had to be challenging. You ever reflected back on that and said, can you imagine as a 22-year-old where you are now? Because it's a great achievement, first of all.
Thank you. No, I really had no idea what I originally thought I'd get my PhD and be sitting in a seat like you. One of my goals was to teach communication and journalism. And I just got so entrenched here. I got my master's degree in college student personnel from here because I thought it was really important for me to have that student affairs background, because I work with students, I promote their programs, and have that side of the house. I felt like I had the academic side just obviously from being a student and being in some of the programs. And then I had a degree in development and training from another institution in the state that was online. So I continued to work full time and take my asynchronous classes at night. I couldn't have done everything I've done throughout the years, including getting 2 master's degrees, without the support of my husband. He was there for me to watch our daughter when I needed to come to campus to do my class because I had a toddler in the background and our computer was in a central location and I couldn't focus. Connor was a little over a year when I got my master's. I had to take a semester off after she was born because I was a little tired because I was working full time and had a baby. So she was a year when I got my first master's, and then my second, I think she was 4 or 5, but it was a 3-year program, maybe 6. I can't remember. Sometimes the years run together, but I couldn't have done it without my biggest cheerleaders. And that was not just my husband, my in-laws, my parents, Connor over the years, understanding why while I was in the stands for a volleyball game, all of a sudden I'm out in the hallway and I might not be back in for the rest of the game. Or we're on a family vacation and I get a call because the state legislature finally decided to pass a budget on June 30th on her birthday instead of May 31st when I'm in Chicago with her and my friend and her best friend for her 16th birthday. And I had to leave H&M and I'm in a little dressing room or whatever talking to our government affairs person, getting things ready for our budget. They've been incredibly understanding over the years. So I know they'll watch this, so thank you. I appreciate them so much. And I do wish I would have at times just said, no, I'm done for the night. I've gotten better with that over the years. I do say I check Facebook before I go to bed, but I do try to not do any work after 7 o'clock if I can. So I'm present and I'm at home. I got better with that over the years. I still remained involved with Connor's activities. She was an athlete. I was in PTO when she was younger. I chaired after prom a couple of years, and that was after working commencement here and then doing prom and after prom. So, super mom, super woman here, but you do what you have to do.
That's right. That's right. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was that normally at the very beginning, I say, Darcie, tell everybody what you're doing and what your current status is. So we're going to do this a little bit at the end because I've forgotten to really say this. Tell everyone what your role is here at the university and all the things that you're responsible for, because we've talked about university relations, but it's more than just that.
It is. And I've added to my responsibilities over the year. I mentioned I was hired as an editorial writer. So I still keep my red pen and I still like editing I still like to edit, and not just to bleed all over someone's paper, but to make something better.
Yep.
So editorial writer, Alumni magazine, then public information specialist, which, I had College of Education and Human Services, business and technology, my beats that I covered. Agriculture was one of my departments that I covered when I had a beat. Loved agriculture, learned so much. Still one of my favorite, and no slap on COFAC. I didn't cover any of those. Someone else did. But ag was still and is still one of my favorite departments. They do so much and it's so interesting and I learn a lot. Then assistant director, executive director, and increasing my responsibilities over the years. So I oversee university relations, which is our PR office, but it's also our publications office. So we do all the publications for admissions, high-level marketing publications, and things like that. University marketing was added not too long ago. So I have a marketing team that I oversee. And so we do all of the university's marketing. Document Publication Services, which is our mail and print shop on campus. Visual Production Center, which is our photography staff. And University Television, which is our television services. We do all of our graphic design, commercials, photography, marketing. Everything's in-house other than our digital marketing. We do contract out with a firm just because the sheer amount of time it takes for digital marketing campaigns is enormous. So having a third-party vendor helps us. We still do all the design in-house for those. I have incredible staff throughout my departments. I always say, if people say I'm a great boss, it's because I have phenomenal staff. They make me look good. I don't think my job would be even half as enjoyable as it is without the staff that I have. I don't have to micromanage. That's not my style anyway. They know what's expected of them, and everyone really works well together. And during the pandemic, I've always been aware of that. But during the pandemic, I didn't have to worry about anyone doing their job. I knew what they were doing. They were still coming in here because everything went online. So UTV had to do virtual graduations, virtual orientation, virtual this, virtual that, get things ready. Sarah and the staff at VPC were still trying to take photos to capture whatever it was.
Yep.
And so we could have content for social media. My marketing staff was working double time because we still had to find a way to promote the institution when we didn't know what fall 2020 would look like. My PR staff, again, finding the stories to tell when we weren't physically here because we were on shutdown, but we were still working. So all of that last year it really even made me appreciate everyone even more because they kicked butt. And so we've got all of that I'm responsible for. I'm also the Deputy Freedom of Information Officer. I used to be the chief. Thank heavens, our general counsel is the chief FOIA officer now. So I have that responsibility. A member of the President's senior leadership team. I'd have to look at my resume or my job description to remember everything I have to do.
And one other thing that I want to make sure to note is you won an alumni award from the Department of Broadcasting.
I did.
Yes, and I don't remember what year it was, but
it was. I think that's when I still had short hair. So it's been a while.
But even since then, you have done so much more, which I think is really a testament to the fact that you're like a spinning top that just continues to gather momentum as you go along within life. I think it's as we mentioned, I think things have gotten just even better within your purview, and I certainly appreciate all the things that you have done for the university over these years, Darcie. It's been.
I appreciate you saying that. I was looking at my little notes that I had provided you beforehand. I was named director in 2008. And so after I was named director, Sharon bestowed me with the award, and I remember the banquet. So it's been 13 years.
That seems like yesterday. And that's the sad thing is that
it does.
As we have talked about, the fact that we have daughters at the same age, and everything has just centered around, it centers around them so much that it gives you perspective. It seems like they were little, just going through grade school yesterday, and now they're out into the world and doing wonderful things.
Yeah, and Connor's a Western graduate. I think there was a lot of hesitancy with her coming to school here, growing up, coming to a lot of events with me, but she got to go to some really cool things with me and having the university in her backyard. But it was that whole, she knows, I know, not that she would do anything bad, and I don't want to embarrass her, but I knew all the police officers. We do Clery Act reporting. We have to go to OPS, and I do all the crime reporting and that. And I think there was that hesitancy to go to a university she felt like she grew up with in her backyard, because she did, and came out here and was so involved with me out here, came to camps out here and different things. And she looked elsewhere. And then she realized the opportunities she'd have here in terms of some of the local scholarships. Her dad was on a grounds worker out here, so civil service scholarships, different things available to her here, and that she could go to school here and maybe leave here without a lot of debt. And luckily, she thought in those terms. We were prepared to have her go elsewhere if she wanted, had her live in Bayless Hall, because I wanted her to actually have that experience. And she never moved back home. So she actually had that full college experience. I had a lot of girls come over to my house on Monday nights for casseroles and that after their sorority meeting, and still had people coming in to do laundry and such. And I'd notice things out of my refrigerator. So she, I think, liked that benefit. But really proud of her, and her degree prepared her well. I've told Dr. Oden and others in health sciences, health services management was her major. She got a job right out of college after her internship because she was so well prepared. And when I hear her talk about her job, I think, wow, she learned that here. Why she knows about the different things here, she learned that here and remembered that and was well trained. So it goes beyond broadcasting and journalism.
No, I think that's part of the story. I think that's, we are both very grateful to this institution for what's provided, the opportunities and the training that it's provided to us both. But I think that I would say, from my perspective, again, I'm representing the department and I'm representing COFAC and part of the university. We are proud of what you have done with taking the opportunities presented to you and what you've done over this period of time. It's just been a really amazing story, and again, I'm thankful to you for sharing your story, because it provides, I think, for our students again another perspective to say, what you do here over a period of time can provide so many wonderful things to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, I'll always be a proud mass comm grad, 1989. And for any students that happen to see this on your page, we have internships here that we offer unpaid, unfortunately, but we'll get you great experience. And don't wait until your senior year to come see us. Get involved. Do all you can to build your portfolio, and check out our internship. We're a great office, a great team, and we'll give you a really good experience.
Well, Darcie, thanks again for being on the podcast today.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of our weekly viewers out there. Again, if you're interested in being a guest, or if you know somebody that you want to recommend to be on the podcast, just send me an email. I'll be happy to have them on. We love to hear from our alums, and we like to tell everyone's story as well. So until next week, stay safe, take care, and God bless.